It felt like it.
Dude, I've never watched it, but I feel like I need to with that new.
Yeah, with Masters of the Air coming out. Yeah.
Like I have to.
Yeah. Just the truth. But it works to perfection. Yeah, it works to perfection.
Check.
Yeah, put 'em on. Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
Should I be able to? Oh, I can like hear myself.
In a
That's so
second.
weird.
The song, yeah. I will figure out, yeah. It's nice, right?
I love this.
Yeah.
Who created this beat for you?
Max Scroggs. Maxwell Scroggs on the music. Good friend of the show. Yeah.
Oh, that flute?
Yeah, right?
Wow.
When I heard him throw that part, I was like, woo, boy. You done made a hit, Max. Golly. Yeah, man. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, how are your levels? How do you sound?
It sounds good.
You
I
sound
think.
good?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. You
That's
sound
good, that's
great. It's great to have you here. We're back, man. We're back.
Oh.
Super wild card weekend at the time of recording. You know, this is if this is your first time tuning into the show or the first time in a while, this is a national championship podcast.
Wow. I'm
This is a
honored for this one.
podcast of
I'm
national
honored that
champions.
I'm honored that I was picked as one of your kind of non-Michigan people.
Yeah,
out
well, so Matt, I mean, that was just like this show is like representative of being a national champion. Last week, it will be last week for the listeners. Max Dominguez was on the show yesterday, and you know, we sort of really got into it.
Right.
Really broke down what it meant.
Yeah.
What it meant to the state,
Brought tears
to
to
the
your
people, dude. How much it fucking this shit means something to me. We really broke that down. But you were there. You were gracious. You were. I mean, I don't know if brave is the word. You had the stomach to watch the national championship game with a bunch of Michigan folks. Not being a Michigan man.
That was that was an experience because I went to a school where.
And you should say this is. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone.
Tyler Medvec.
Hi, I'm Tyler Medvec.
On the show.
I'm honored to be here.
And we're
Thank
so
you.
happy to have
Thank
you
you.
here. Yeah.
I went to a school. I went to Northwestern, which
Yeah.
is a school that is not necessarily a football powerhouse.
Yeah.
You know, we went 7-5 this season. I went to a bowl game
Nice. I mean, it's a nice season.
after going 1-11 last
It's
last
a
year.
fine Big Ten football season.
It is, and so for me, being able to watch
Great.
a lot of people who really love their football team,
Yeah.
that was an experience.
Yeah.
And that was something I've never
Yeah.
seen with my own eyes.
Yeah.
And it was
Something else.
startling at moments to see just the total fear
Yeah.
and the angst
And the unbridled joy. And that's what it's all about. Charlie's gonna be on the pod. The pod had taken a couple weeks off, and Charlie had grown accustomed to that, so she was a little riled up for Max's episode. But she's gonna try to stick it out for this one.
Do you think she knows that we're podcasting? Like, do you think she's aware as a dog of the concept of a podcast, or is she more of a visual medium person?
You know, that's a good question. I think she knows something's happening when strangers come over
Right.
to the house, strangers to her, or
Right.
friends to her sometimes. At this point, you're a friend to her. But still, when I bust out the equipment and all the wires come out, she definitely knows something's going on.
Right.
I think it's probably hard for her to. I think you're right. It's probably hard for her to understand that a podcast is happening, but one day she might. I'm sorry if I'm a little nervous today because it's starting to sink in. And again, I don't want. This isn't a sports show,
Right.
right?
Right.
This is just it's a hanging out show though.
It's just two people having fun.
Yeah, and it's an extension of me, you know, and the Detroit Lions have a home playoff game today, and I'm not gonna beleaguer it to death because anything can happen,
Right.
and I don't want to talk myself into one thing or another too hard right now.
Right.
I want to just enjoy it as it happens. I'm watching the goddamn fucking Green Bay Packers win another fucking playoff game with some kid playing quarterback. And it's pissing me. I'm sure as you're a Bears man, I'm sure that pisses you off a little bit. No,
I'm gonna this game that's on right here. I don't think the camera can see, but it is the Green Bay Packers playing the Dallas Cowboys. I can honestly say that I'm not
right. I hope
fan
both
of
teams
either
lose.
of those
Right.
programs.
I'd love to see them both lose.
Yeah. But the team I'm personally rooting for in the playoffs this year, given that the Bears were just so close and couldn't quite make the cut, is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow, Mike Tomlin, huh?
My dad is a Pittsburgh diehard.
Sure.
So
he probably watched them back in the days when they were really.
They were good.
I watched something about Franco Harris, the great Pittsburgh Steelers running back, who's responsible for one of the greatest plays in NFL history, and his CTE is so bad now, and he got hit during that play. He suffered a concussion, where he doesn't even remember that play, and he doesn't remember most of the game.
How terrifying is that?
Isn't that something else, man? I mean, I think about that a lot. Like, could you imagine like doing something so like historic and just I don't remember.
No idea.
Got hit in the head really hard.
I would love to hear your thoughts on kind of just football as a broad sport in American culture, because I'm sure you're impassioned by the issue of like the more science we get on football, the more we can kind of see like it's not great. It's not a great thing for your brain. It's not great for your skull, body in general.
Any part of your body.
And so I think that football is going, it's so ingrained in like America, raw.
Yeah, right. It is.
I think it's hard to separate it. But do you see where like maybe football isn't going to be the high school sport in the future?
Well, it's like the meme that I always see on, I call it Twitter. I don't know what you call it.
I'm still at Twitter.
I call it. I haven't updated the app on my phone yet.
It still says
it's still
Twitter?
the blue bird, and it's still Twitter when it opens up. It's nice. It's nice.
Is that weird for you that it's not that anymore?
Look, it's just like, I didn't want to call it X. I didn't want to have X on my phone. I know it's still fucking that guy's platform. What if I was one of those guys? I'm not even gonna say his name. Elon. Ew, boo. He should not be named. I don't really give a fuck. I just didn't want to have an X on my phone. The meme I see on there all the time is once science gets a hold of Antonio Brown's brain, like it's over for football, which I don't think is true, because like Antonio Brown is not the first guy.
No, one of many.
Yeah, like fucking Michael Irvin makes jokes about it on ESPN every day. CTE's acting up, and these guys know, and there's something I think poetic in that, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe not. Maybe it's just self-mutilation. I think the bigger problem, what's interesting is, and you played soccer in high school, right?
Yeah, that was my.
And I'm sure we'll get to there eventually, as we always do on this show.
Right.
But
trace the history of people.
I always you look at we have to have the best athletes in the country, right?
Yeah.
When I look at like LeBron James,
right,
and the ilk, all of them. And it's like, well, America isn't competing with other countries in football, soccer on that level. And it's like, that's because they're all playing it from when they're toddlers, and everybody's playing football. And like, I know at my high school, when I graduated high school, the incoming freshmen only had 8 kids sign up for American football. And because parents are starting to get a little wise to it. And I got a couple concussions playing football, minor ones, and I'm still dealing with the knees of it and shit. So I get it. I don't. So what I'm more interested in is when if we can get American kids to lock in on being we want to have we can do it if we all fucking
we
start
could be
playing,
so good.
we could dominate
at every sport.
At the world. Like once we can start getting like generations of kids to buy into like we're bringing World Cup glory to the U.S. That's when I think American football starts to die.
And I will say, as someone who's a big fan of soccer, definitely watch it less than I used to, but been trying to get back into it now that I'm kind of post grad and finding my things to kill time with. Like American youth soccer is so huge nowadays.
Yeah.
And the American, like the kind of on U19, U20 teams that go and play in these tournaments, like they do well against these other countries because they are of even like they're kind of the beginning of that generation where when they were growing up, like football wasn't the kind of like only thing
End all, be
where you
all.
could go.
Yeah.
And obviously that people played hockey and basketball and all sports, but I do think that there's going to be a transition for if you're just like an amazing athlete, like soccer is a great sport for you.
To showcase that. Yeah, it's interesting. And I think like I've heard that before, and shout out just yesterday, my little baby cousin was honored as an All-American Division I high school soccer player. Shout out to Seth Davidson.
Hell yeah.
And so he got to like talk to a bunch of U.S. development people and like vendors and people at the big ceremony. And he was saying the same thing, like the U19 kids are starting to fucking kick ass. And it's like, why isn't it? Like I've heard that for a few years now, and it's like, why are we still? We're still not quite turning the page, but I think we're close, and I think especially like the next levels of football, college football particularly, is in a very precarious position right now. I don't know how interesting this is to the general audience, but the NCAA is like really facing its extinction in the face.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think is unbelievable is the full-on integration of gambling platforms at every level. I mean, except high school, but like from junior college to NFL, and probably soon enough, like legalized and not beyond legalized gambling, integrated into the fabric of the leagues. I think that's a super, and that's not confined to just football, but another thing that I think makes the football's on a very precarious tipping point, but it's still very much being buoyed by the entire country still loves to watch it.
I find the impact of like legalized gambling and online gambling on sports so like it's just so emblematic of how addicting that can be. Because I have friends who like in college were not big sports people. Like I myself, like I like watching sports. I'm definitely a bigger sports fan than, some of these kids
the average
were.
person for sure.
And I'd walk upstairs, it'd be a Thursday night in the middle of the regular season NBA basketball. Something where you probably aren't paying attention unless it's your team out there. And I'd see these kids just like sitting on the edges of the couch, just like shaking, switching between their phone and the TV.
8-leg parlay.
And I'm like, what are you guys doing? And these kids who have barely watched basketball in their life are like, dude, I am running.
I need Mark Williams to get 3 more rebounds against the Pacers, right? It's Hornets Pacers.
I've got a 67-leg parlay.
Plus 19,000.
And if I win, I'm set for life.
For years at least. And it's like, yeah, man. Of course.
Because it's not going to win.
You're never going to win. Yeah. It is, I mean, it's wild. And, the NCAA really gets my goat.
Yeah.
The fact that, there was already billions of dollars shooting straight up to university presidents and NCAA board members and skipping over all of the players,
all of the people who actually,
all of the actual
product.
players, destroying their bodies and shit. And then they just went before they could even consider proper revenue sharing. It's going to sound a little conspiracy theory-ish, but I really think they rushed the NIL rollout on purpose so that they could point at it and say, look, it's a bad idea to pay the players.
Really?
I in my heart buy that. I think they rushed all the that's kind of cute but unfortunate. You sat on all the cords, Charlie. Hey, easy.
And now she
wants to leave, you fucking asshole.
She said her piece.
Careful. please be careful. I love you so much. Please be careful. Thank you. What the hell were we talking about? It probably wasn't interesting.
I'm just so amazed at how I think it's this is totally different from what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But like that some like an animal like Charlie Barkley over here could just dismantle the work of two human beings.
Two smart geniuses. Hold on. I got a button for this. This is edit point. Yeah. You know, one day she's honestly come a long ways.
Right.
From when this show started back in that apartment in Ann Arbor.
So this has been a journey for
dreaming
both
of being
of
a national
really.
champion. Yeah, it has. And she gets a little calmer every day, and one day we'll reach a point in this show where she'll just fucking want to sit and hang out while it happens. But that day is not yet today. So she got a greenie. She'll be all right.
Yeah.
Baby steps. That's really what it's all about. One step at a time, right?
That's everything in life.
And yeah, well, you are. If you care to talk about it, you're you're doing dry January right now.
I am. It has been. I'm better than everyone else. It's. Thank you.
I gotta give you some moral high ground here. I have to hand it to you. It's the right thing to do.
It's something that I have thought about doing in years previous. Yeah. Obviously, when you're in college, like New Year's strikes, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do dry January. I'm gonna read Moby Dick this year.
To get through Moby Dick. I'm gonna pick up Melville,
and I'm gonna be a better person for it. And then you go back to college, and it's January 7th, and
you're celebrating.
All right, well, it's someone's
your favorite
birthday.
Guys.
It's someone's birthday.
Yeah.
I can't not drink.
Mm-hmm.
No, but it's been honestly kind of nice.
Yeah.
Just kind of been trying to find. I'm actually sipping on a.
I saw that
Athletic Brew. Athletic Brewing Company.
Athletic Brew.
It's a non-alcoholic brew.
A non-alcoholic IPA, I believe I read.
It is, and it's, you know what? It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's weird. I was here obviously watching the Michigan game, and I had some non-alcoholic Heineken.
Yeah, some Heineken Zeros, not sponsored.
Because it's, I think it's kind of a weird feeling. Not that it should be, but as someone who tends to have a beer when watching football,
yeah, right.
Having a brew with the boys while watching the sports.
yeah.
And so it felt weird to I was like, oh, I'll grab something, but then you have 6 of them, and you stand up and you're like, whoa, I'm just
fully
full.
drunk. Yeah.
No, but
my belly is full of
and then you're like,
so much liquid.
I'm gonna I can do whatever I want. I've had no alcohol tonight, and it's a weird feeling because you feel like you've tasted beer
so much,
but it has no impact on you.
Yeah.
So it's
I can
all
still
of
go
the
dry.
it's all the downsides of just being really full and feeling gross without any of the fun of I want to go dance.
Yeah, I wanna yell.
I'm gonna scream.
I kind of want to yell.
I want to scream tonight. That's what I want to do, and I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
No, but it's been good. It's been a nice little, not really a challenge as of yet, but I think as I kind of get towards the end of January, maybe it'll become a bit more of a thing, when I'm going out. But no, it feels good.
Nice.
Yeah,
it is good. I'm the big for me. Yes, it's bad for my liver. I know it is. The amount of beer consumed, bad. But the thing that really gets me is whenever I'm like, oh man, I ate honestly pretty good this week.
Yeah.
I cooked vegetables and lunch and dinner.
Always good.
I maybe even had a fruit.
Hell yeah.
Possibly.
Throw one in there.
I'm like, oh, I drank 2 meals worth a day of calories in beer. I drank 7 beers every day.
It's startling when you break it down.
Yeah. I'm like, oh shit, that's 800 calories of beer that I drank just watching your friends, not because I don't even gamble anymore, but I'm still a big League Pass guy, so I'm watching fucking Bulls Wizards just
Matchup
getting
of the
shit
century.
faced. It's ridiculous.
It is
ridiculous.
It's kind of one of those things where I think you look back at it and you're like, it's weird that I had 7 beers tonight.
Yeah.
When I'm doing something like that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you know what though?
Whatever. I'm 20.
young.
22.
Yeah. Have a little fun.
What the fuck? I got sick immediately following when Michigan retired Nick Saban.
Right. Sent them to the Phantom Zone.
Yeah. And I went, and I assume a dirty hillbilly from Tuscaloosa gave me some kind of backwater virus. And I got really quite sick for a few days. And then for like a week and a half, I was telling people I was doing dry January. I wasn't. I was just sick. But it felt good. It felt like I was feeling pretty proud of myself for like a week and a half, not having to drop alcohol. I felt pretty damn proud of myself.
The best part about dry January, when you look at like the health benefits and being able to sleep better, losing some calories, is actually, it really is just being able to tell people you're doing dry January.
Not drinking.
Because then they're like, oh my God, you're so brave.
It does feel so dope to be like, nah, I'm good. Dude.
Yeah, the reaction of some of my friends has been like, I came over here and I brought the non-alcoholic beers and I was telling you, you're like, good for you. Like, that's nice.
Nice.
And then some of my college friends, I was talking to them and I was like, I'm doing dry January. And they're like,
fucking
sure.
Pussy.
Yeah, we'll see in a week.
Right. Yeah. Dry January 2nd. Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's been good. I think it's weird. I don't know how you feel about resolutions and like this idea of January being like, let's restart. Because to some degree, I set resolutions every year. And I'm just so bad at actually doing them, where I'm starting to think they might not be for me. And I'm wondering.
Well, give me an example. Well, because like I totally agree with you. I there was definitely some point in my life where I was probably setting New Year's resolutions for myself, I'm sure. And then at some point I was just like, I never fucking do them, so why set them for myself? But I do, like, I at random points will sometimes be like, you know what? I'm going to start working out, and then I'll stick with it for like 3 weeks.
Yeah. And then you burn out.
I don't know why. Yeah. But what are give me an example of some of your resolutions.
So one of my resolutions this year is...
I like the idea of them. I think they're good. I think it's good.
One of my resolutions this year is... So I have 3. I said 3 because I was like, that's a manageable goal.
Yeah.
The first of which is read one book every month.
Whoa, cool.
I've been trying to get back into reading. When I was a kid, like, I actually really enjoyed reading. Fucking nerd.
Yeah, dude, that's how you got to Northwestern. Fucking pussy.
But like, I enjoyed it. And then,
do you count graphic novels?
I do. Nice. Yeah. I read Watchmen last year.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get into the Invincible collection. Cool. I'm a big fan of that show.
Yeah,
so
it's fun.
I do count those. I think the thing for me with reading is you start and you're like, this is pretty good. Like, I think a lot of kids probably like it to some degree.
Yeah.
Like Hungry Caterpillar, that book.
Yeah, sure.
Everyone knows it's a classic. It's great.
Yeah.
But then you go to school and they're like, read this and this and this, and you get bored of it. Like, as everything, you just like, you're like, fuck this.
I don't want to do anything I have to do either. Yeah.
And so then you go to college and you're like, read this and this and this, and it's just longer and
more boring and bullshit. Yeah.
And so then as a graduate, I was like, all right, I like reading. It's better for me before I go to sleep than using my phone.
So, like, literally so much better.
So much better. And, like, it's just good for you in general.
And you can get back to reading. Like, that's good, though. Reading for yourself.
Yes.
That's
and, like,
nice.
Picking books that I'm genuinely interested in. If I want to read a comic, if I want to read, like, a graphic novel, sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Hell
I think that's the big one on that. And that resolution I have done a good job of
That's a
sticking to.
nice one. I like that.
And, if I read more than one book, I set it at one book a month because, like,
crazy.
You're a busy person, so you gotta.
You just started a new job. You gotta do a lot of reading in that job.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, my other 2, I've actually already got done. As we're recording this on today is January 14th.
Yes.
So 2 weeks into the new year.
Yes.
And I've failed on both of these already.
That's tough.
Failed almost instantly on both of them, actually.
Damn it.
So my second resolution was to work out 3 times a week, which shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be, but
it is though.
I get tired.
Yeah, like
sleepy.
It's like you don't want to wake up early and do it, and you really don't want to do it after work.
I started a new job, and I was like, all right, you know what? wake up at 6 a.m. and I'll go work out. And I woke up and I was like, who the fuck do I think I am? I've never woken up at 6 a.m. in my life.
Yeah.
Why would today be the day where that starts?
Yeah. Do you have a gym in your apartment?
I do. I have a small gym. I've actually really been trying to get back into running as something. I think it's just like something that I saw something where if you're like 20 years or like when you're in your post-grad life, you either get like really into running and like you have like you're a marathon person. I have a lot of friends who become marathon people. You either do that or you get really into like being influenced by things on social media.
Yeah.
Which is like, I have friends who do that. I was talking to a friend last night and he was excited that he bought something from the TikTok shop. Like that was a milestone for him.
He was pumped on that?
It's like me coming up to you and being like, dude, I used Amazon.
Yeah. Dude, I just bought a shirt off a Targeted Instagram ad. How sick is that?
I was like, all right, what'd you buy? Thinking like, there's probably like independent creators.
Shop?
Yeah, there's a shop on TikTok.
Oh, I hope this isn't going where I think it's going.
I hope not either.
Go ahead.
I'm like, oh, he's like, there's like artists on TikTok and like local independent.
God,
he bought a power block, like an Anchor power block.
Oh,
and I was
just
like,
confusing.
I was like, why didn't you use?
Why'd you buy that from TikTok?
They sell those on the internet? They sell those at Target. They sell those almost anywhere you go.
They sell those at gas stations.
Like, you go to your local. You walk somewhere.
Yeah, that's within. There's one in walking distance for.
And he was like, well, it was 20% off because it was my first time using the TikTok shop. And I was like, that's a stupid reason to buy something.
We're talking about TikTok, right? Like TikTok?
Yes.
And it's just a regular...
It's an Anchor power bank.
It's Anchor. So it's a brand.
It's a brand that is known.
And when did they start doing that?
I can't tell you, but I get ads
from TikTok shop.
TikTok is I don't know what your primary social media is. Is it Twitter?
It's Twitter and
the
Instagram.
company formerly known as Twitter.
Yes, it's Twitter.
So I'm a TikTok person.
Okay.
It's a big reason that one of my other resolutions, my third resolution, was to cut back on screen time.
Yeah.
I use my phone so much during the day, and almost none of it is for things I actually need to be doing. There was like one day in the winter, over like kind of winter break, didn't have much going on, and I think I probably spent 9 hours scrolling through TikTok.
It's so easy to, especially when you I mean, I really hate to beat a dead horse here, but in the last 2 weeks, my algorithm, I was like purposefully staying on Michigan content for longer than I needed to, so it would be like, just feed me this shit for the next 2 weeks, and I'll spend as much time on here as you want. Techno lords.
Yeah.
And I got my screen time report, and it was like, you went up 38%
horrifying
this week.
Horrifying. And so like my resolution of like cutting down on screen time
is
so
just
canceled out by that. But it's funny because when I first, like, there's periods on TikTok where it feels a lot to me like Vine used to feel.
Yeah.
Like super fun, original content.
When you actually like get a good laugh, that makes you want to stay on there for so much longer.
Sucks
it's like, whoa, yes, yes, dude. But
the pathetic thing is I haven't gotten a good laugh from an original TikTok in months.
Yeah.
There's been days where my entire TikTok feed is just recordings of cable TV shows. Like I've never personally tuned into the show Chicago Fire or Chicago Med
or Chicago PD
or Chicago
Wednesdays on NBC.
The trilogy. I've literally never chosen to watch that show in my life. I'll see one of a clip from that show on TikTok. I'll watch a whole episode
in TikTok.
It's like 189 parts. You're scrolling, trying to refresh the page so that the
new clip shows up.
It's
not out yet.
Yeah, it's like
that sucks.
We have so much access in this day and age to every show we could ever want, and I choose to watch it on the smallest little screen.
Yeah, vertically.
And it's stuff that I don't even want to watch.
And you're only getting like 20% of the visual information at a time. Dude.
They're like looking at stuff and you're like, I wonder what that
the fuck
be.
is that? Yeah. You're only getting one character
Half of
in
it's
frame
blurred
at a time.
because you can't show like blood on TikTok.
Right.
So the medical shows go out the window very quickly.
Yeah.
I
mean,
Yeah, it's weird.
Every account on Twitter these days that I come across is like fascinating images or disturbing history. And it's just like, this guy died.
I eat that shit up.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. I guess I'll like that.
Sometimes I see those though and I'm like, bullshit. Like it'll be the most insane story I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's like a photo of just like a random dude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like you're just making this up.
Sometimes, or sometimes I'll see something that like I saw on iFunny in 5th grade being passed off as literally like news. I'm like, what the fuck? I remember literally, it's ridiculous. The internet's a wild place now.
Were you an iFunny user back in the glory days? You were a fan? I loved iFunny.
Shout out Dowan McClish for putting me on to iFunny, 5th grade, Mrs. Betts class. Dude, there was like, we used to like literally in our fucking iPod Touch WhatsApp group messages be like, you guys catch that new featured? The featured memes, dude? You guys see that one?
Ridiculous. That used to be my social media, really.
Yeah.
That was before, like, people, like, used Instagram and stuff at our age.
It's so crazy that there were so many kids just on there.
Oh, and you would see some
children. And there was straight up pornography on there.
I think it's a very interesting topic of like our generation was the first to just have like the most access to the internet ever.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think it was with you when we did our summer program back in high school where we did the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Was that with you?
Yeah. Because I had done it a couple times by that point from being a little fucked up little internet
I was
kid.
a newbie.
And I do remember that of being like, should we do it? It's really fucked up, and it's like, when you look at,
it's just the worst shit you've ever seen in your life. But now I see that level of stuff. It's just on Twitter now.
Yeah,
it's on Instagram.
Live leaks somehow it's probably he who shall not be named, dude. You probably. Him just being like,
no restrictions,
post whatever you want. It's like Live Leak is just on Twitter now.
And I'm just picturing like being a
child,
13-year-old in today's age of like social media.
Yeah.
There's no blocker that's going to actually stop a kid from seeing shit that will change who they are.
And it's wild how much smarter kids are than their parents. Like,
oh my gosh.
For the vast majority of it when it comes to like the internet.
It's terrifying, I think.
Like they can just so easily outmaneuver any restriction their parent would try to pull.
I don't think that,
to get that
a lot of parents realize that like kids know how to use this shit.
Yeah.
Like I've seen 6-year-olds at dinner tables, like on their fucking iPods. They're coding. They're fucking like coding websites.
They know Python.
They're like, Mom, look.
Yeah. Mom, look.
It's in C. It's in C. I did C. I'm done with Python.
It's scary, dude. It definitely it makes you scared to have a child.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I was already just. I think that. Are you gonna have a kid one day?
God, we'll see if I can.
A lil hunter.
We'll see if I can trick some poor woman.
No, I swear.
We'll see if I can wear down.
It'll be good.
Some old maiden. Yeah, I think I'd be a good dad.
Yeah,
I think I'd be a.
I think you have a lot of dad qualities.
Yeah, like
football.
Like I've seen what a dad should be, and like I feel like I can do that.
Yeah, and
I feel like especially if I somehow miraculously manage to have some kind of career that is mainly consists of podcasting and stand-up comedy.
Yeah, pray to it.
Then I could be like such a good stay-at-home dad.
Oh yeah.
Like I would be like, I would be so good at being like, honey, you go to work, you take care of us in case
this shit doesn't work out.
And fucking I would be so good at taking the kids to practice and picking them up from school.
Yeah.
I could probably spend time with them. I really think that. I really think I could.
I think I could maybe spend time with my kids.
I think I could hang out with them because here's the thing about kids is, and this is what I think a lot of people get wrong, is kids really want to be adults.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I just want to be a kid.
That's the paradigm, right?
Yeah. So like if you just talk to a kid like an adult, they fuck with you so hard.
Yeah. I think that's always been when I'm like talking to like little family members who have kids and stuff like that, I think of myself as like, oh, I'm the cool relative, or like I'm cool to them.
Yeah.
But I really do wonder in my head, or like, am I the loser of their world where they see me and they're like, ugh.
They definitely thought they definitely thought you rocked.
This guy's gonna come up and fucking talk to me about Toy Story and try and get on my good side.
Well, I think they only think that about the ones that are like, hey, buddy, did you see the new Toy Story? Like, they fucking hate that, because I hated that shit. Because I fucking hated that shit.
Yes, Barbara, I did.
Yeah, I'm not a baby. I'm literally not a baby. Fuck you. But like when you're just like, yo, like, what's up, man? Like, what are you fucking doing? Like, if you just are just like, what are you doing? What are you fucking around with? Explain it to me. They fuck with that, I think. And I think I can do that as a dad. And I can like I would love telling fun lies to my kids, you know?
Yeah.
Just like fucking with them, but like not in a way that's like gonna really seriously alter their life.
Just messing with them a little bit.
Yeah. My dad used to do that to me, dude.
Yeah, it's good for development.
Yeah, my dad used to tell me about like how he would like walk 2 miles through the snow from his farm to school. And I remember being like 8 years old, hanging out at my grandma and grandpa's house in Detroit, being like, "Wait, you grew up here? You walked across the block.
Where is the farm?
Like you're such an asshole." Like my dad had like fantasies of being a redneck, and like tried to impart
that was like his
on us.
dream scenario.
Yeah. All he ever wanted
Abraham
was like
Lincoln
a pickup truck, dude, like a old pickup truck that him and his boys would hang out. Like ridiculous shit.
There's something on that thing of lying to kids. Something that came up during the holiday season on social media was people saying that you shouldn't tell your kids about Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Are you pro canceling Santa Claus? Have you discussed this at all?
Jesus, I'm glad you brought it up because it's you don't want to broach that subject too close to the holidays,
right?
Because people are hot about Christmas, dude.
Yeah, it's fresh on the mind.
And they're as the Packers fucking score again. God, that sucks.
This is disgusting.
There is a war on Christmas, dude. Look, as a Jew who also like believed in Santa for a couple years,
right?
Because I wanted to, because it's like so awesome to believe in something magical as a child. Like, what the hell? Like, let the kids have like you're not develop like because that's the argument, right? Trust issues.
It's like you're lying to your kid for years of their life.
Holy shit!
I wasn't when I found out that he wasn't real. I wasn't like, Mom and Dad, what the hell?
Also, like, you find out he's real after, like, your brain develops to the point where you're like, oh,
okay.
Obviously my parents that love me were buying presents and not some fucking dude.
Not a guy who lives in the North Pole with elves helping build. Like, you think they were building the box of your Legos?
So, like, slave labor. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think... like, let the kids, if we're pretty entrenched in on Christmas at this point, which fine.
It's a big thing.
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Definitely there were years where, being a Jew, being the only Jew in a very Christian environment as I grew up in, like, it was the kids today would call it a hard cope.
Really?
To be like, well, we get 8 days of presents instead of 1.
Yeah.
Because that felt like a huge flex. And it did, like, kids did think that was cool, I think. But at the end of the day, it's not Christmas.
No.
Hanukkah is not Christmas.
Yeah.
And I love Hanukkah. And it's very...
I've always wondered. I think I know the answer to this question.
Yeah.
Is there, do you have a Santa for Hanukkah?
Well, there's Hanukkah Harry.
That's a real...
Who I believe started as a Saturday Night Live sketch. I believe that's an Adam Sandler.
Well, Santa was a Coca-Cola ad.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, a lot
capitalism.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what Sandler is basically Santa Claus to me.
Yeah.
Because like Hanukkah to me, the big things are the Hanukkah song, all the iterations by Sandler.
Classic.
And I guess Hanukkah Harry. And then also there's I have this weird I don't know his name. I want to say it's Lammy, but I don't know if that's true. There's like I have this weird like memory of like a VHS tape that we used to play that was like this little puppet lamb. And he was a big Hanukkah guy.
He was big on it. He was pro.
He liked Hanukkah. He liked it.
I don't think I cannot say that I tuned into that tape.
I want to say his name was Lambie. I couldn't tell you though. We had him and Hanukkah Harry. But no, we didn't end. But the mascots were supposed to be the Maccabees, the great Hebrew warriors that defended the temple and then let the oil burn for 8 days and 8 nights. That's who you look up to,
right?
Which is not as fun as Santa.
A little less. I mean, I do think Christmas historically, you're kind of supposed to focus on Jesus and kind of that him coming in to the story.
Which isn't it not really his birthday though?
I don't even know.
I think it's not really his birthday. I'm gonna be honest. I don't want to talk out of turn here, but I think it's Christmas might not.
But like when I was a kid,
birthday.
I'm gonna be honest. The thing about Santa is he's so cool that you don't really care about any of the other stuff.
Yeah. Santa that's the thing, he rocks.
Yeah, I think we can move on from holidays since we're past that period. But I want to touch on one thing, and that's the Elf on the Shelf.
Yeah,
fundamental part of my childhood.
Okay,
and this is another
controversial.
It's a little lie where it's like, oh, the elf moves while you're asleep, and it keeps an eye on you to see if you're being a good little boy.
So it's also training your children to live in a surveillance state, right? And
he's always watching. Yeah, if you fuck up,
he's the NSA.
There will be consequences.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember there were a couple nights of the holiday season where looking back at it, I feel so bad that my parents had to there would be nights where I fall asleep holding that little fucking elf, and I'd be like, this way, you can get a really good look at me. He knows
I'll be good. He knows I won't be a naughty boy in my sleep, dude. What were you gonna do?
I'd wake up in the morning and he'd be fucking staring at me from the top of the dresser, and I'd be like, oh my god, I was not I had to have been naughty. Yeah, it's scary, but it was also it's a very cool thing to believe. I think as we get older, we lose the belief in the magic of life.
Yeah, it's sad. I remember when I remember because did you do the tooth fairy? Did you put loose teeth under your pillow?
Love the
That's
tooth
a fun
fairy.
one.
I would just eat the teeth.
What do you mean?
Yeah, instead of
you would eat the teeth.
Instead of putting them under the pillow,
you'd swallow them.
I'd go, okay, Mr. Tooth, if you're out there,
well, dude,
I'm gonna swallow 3.
That's obviously insane.
No, yeah, I did believe in the tooth fairy. Yeah.
I remember one time I tried to I must have been probably 6 or 7, still putting teeth under my pillow, waking up, having quarters under there. Yeah. And then I would at breakfast or dinner be like, Dad, dude, I caught you putting the money under my pillow. And he was like, no, you did not. And I was like, and he was like, you were asleep. You were fast asleep. You did not see me. And I was like, you motherfucker. And that's how he was like, obviously it's too old for you to.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
I fucking caught you. He's like,
it's was
a good one.
That's kind of a gross one to me. I remember I remember having, I don't know why, but I remember having a tooth-shaped wooden box, and inside of it, I would keep my old teeth.
Yeah, little tooth box.
And I think my parents would clean the teeth post getting removed from my mouth.
Yeah,
but that's what a serial killer would keep.
Yeah,
it's a collection of.
Did you ever have trouble? Did you ever have to do anything
insane,
funky to get a tooth out?
I think I always wanted to try tying my tooth to a door and slamming it. I don't think I ever got the opportunity though.
I didn't either.
I think they fall out a lot easier than
mine
you think,
fell out just so easy. Because I ate so much candy and I hated brushing my teeth.
I'm very similar. I think I had 12 baby teeth pulled because they were just riddled with cavities.
Yeah. Okay. Do you get do you still have I've never gotten one.
You've never gotten a cavity.
It blows my mind that I've never gotten one.
I obviously once I got like grown up teeth and also just got older, I got like a lot better about brushing my teeth, and I don't really like candy and sweets and stuff, so that's better. During college, I like forgot that you had to go to the dentist. I just like didn't go to the dentist for quite a few years.
Nice.
And I finally went this past year. And I went, and they're like, "Wow, like these are in really good shape."
Whoa, dude.
And I did. I must say, I had a very, very small cavity in one of my teeth, and
thank you for not lying.
This is a nightmare story. Yeah, I would never. This is a nightmare story for me.
No.
I don't like the dentist.
Hate it.
I don't
personally.
I actually am kind of pro doctors. Hot take.
Cool.
I like doctors.
Cool.
But like nowadays I can recognize, because I used to really hate shots, and I'm still I still get really like queasy when I get blood drawn at the doctors. But like the doctor, it's very easy for me to be like, you are gonna help me live longer.
Yeah.
And like you're looking out for me.
Yeah.
Dentists, I think they just want to fuck you up, and I think they hate you for it. I've had good dentists though. Like
I hate the feeling of just the metal scraping on the teeth.
sounds.
Yeah, dude.
So
I hate that a lot.
So I had this really tiny cavity, and I went in and I went to go have it filled, and it was my first cavity filling because all the other cavities had been on baby teeth. They just pull them out. And so I go in and they get me numbed up. They do the anesthesia shots or anesthetic shots. Do local anesthesia. Yeah. And I'm numb. I'm feeling good. And they start the procedure of filling it, and they kind of start by like drilling out the extra stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, this doesn't feel. He's like, you should be feeling a little bit of pressure. And they're doing like their dentist talk where they're like leaning over you and your mouth is torn
wide
apart,
open,
and they're like staring inside, and they're like, so college going good? And
Yeah.
you're like, and so I'm like, wow, this hurts a lot. And I'm kind of like, maybe that's just like don't be a baby, come on. And so I'm like sitting there, and it gets to the point where he's really drilling in my tooth, and I'm shaking
it hurts.
I'm like, oh my god, this is the worst pain, because it's like direct
Tap
nerve
out.
pain.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, excuse me.
Yeah, it hurts.
And he stops,
really bad.
and he's like, oh, does this hurt? And I'm like, is it not supposed to?
Unbelievably.
Like, this is the most pain I've ever been in.
Yeah.
And it turns out that the anesthesia had worn off very quickly. Normally it lasts really,
usually your
really
face
strong
is still
for like an
numb
hour.
when you have to go back to school. Yeah.
And so then they came back in, and they at this point they're like,
we're not taking any risks, buddy. We're
we gotta
sorry
get
about
you
that.
doped up.
Yeah.
So they just gave me so much, just all of the shots of it, and then the rest of the procedure went fine. It was great, but then I like got home, and my face was just completely asleep for like 6 hours.
Yeah, you can't drink.
Looked like I'd been just like I stopped at McDonald's and I got myself a milkshake on the way home because I was like, I'm a good boy.
That, yeah.
I went to the dentist. I get to have my treat.
I get a treat.
And I was sitting in my car and I was trying to use the straw, and I like physically couldn't.
Right.
Like it's just spilling onto me, and I was like,
That's always it always makes you feel like a little piece of shit when you can't do the little things, you know?
I was like, you're fucking 22 and you cannot use this straw.
I always remembered that, like trying to just take a sip of water after getting in my face numb and just dribbles. I'm like, I'm at the lowest a human could be right now. How are your gums? You got good gums?
I think so. I floss every day. I've picked up flossing. I use floss picks.
Yeah, you got floss picks too.
And it's actually gotten to the point. I'm a little bit. This is related, but a little unrelated. Like I kind of have developed like OCD about stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I haven't been like not like medical OCD, but like I'm one of those people
very
where, like,
much so.
Today when I came from my apartment, I checked that the stove was off 3 times, and I checked the doors locked 3 times. And so I'm kind of that same way with flossing now, where like regardless of how tired I am or how much I don't want to do it, like I'll get out of bed if I forget. Yeah. And I'm like, you have to. Like it's become so
damn. Well, that's nice, I guess. If you're gonna become obsessive compulsive,
it's better
about
than
anything,
like being like, I need to.
If I don't spin around 18 times before I leave, my mom will die tonight. Yeah,
and it's because it's weird. I don't have like the extreme scenario of like if I don't check my door 9 times, I will never see the light of day again. Yeah, but it's like I think it's like very minor. I'm just like, you forgot to lock the door, and I never do.
Yeah.
But it's
I
annoying.
guess I do that as well, and my car especially. I gotta hear that. I gotta hear that thing beep 9 times, and then still once the keys are in the pocket, I'm like, I locked it, right? Which is, I don't know, dude. I think my memory's just starting to slip pretty hard.
Yeah.
You feel frail?
Like mentally weak when it comes to stuff like that.
I agree. And man, you know, I got to get my blood drawn this week. I got this pre-op surgery's less than 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
But anyways, man, that was a good vamp sesh. We can get into the personal aspect. I'm trying to change the show a little bit so it's more like that kind of free flowing fun stuff.
Love that.
But you know, we do have I've known you longer than, you know, we had Will Bonnell on the show a few weeks ago.
I saw that.
And you guys, you know, I've known longer than, with the exception of the great Cash Bleason or any other guest that I've had on the show. So that's very, you know, fun
that's weird
for me.
That's like, because it's kind of you. A lot of your other guests obviously are very good friends.
I'm so close with these guys,
like
but
kind of period
they don't go back.
They're like ghosts of the past,
dude. Literally, and it's been so cool, you know, as a Lounge 2111 veteran, coming full circle and doing another pod. Isn't that something else?
You know, there's been a couple times where I've talked to people about the fact that we did a podcast.
When we were 17,
and I pull it up, and I'm gonna be honest, it's like almost impossible to watch because I'm sitting there and I'm like, that wasn't a podcast.
No.
That was 4 people looking at Google and talking about.
Yeah.
That's like that. And what you have here, and I think because we're older and like and now everyone has a podcast, which I would love to talk to you about today.
Yeah.
You know, you see so many podcasts.
Yeah.
And so many of them I am scrolling past and I'm like, I don't want to listen to you.
Yeah.
That Lounge 2111 podcast was I would argue like that was an early bad podcast. Like, we were early to the game.
And that's always my what I think which I think you're too nice to say, but what I think you're sort of getting at is a thought that's obviously crossed through my head a million times, which is why the fuck do I have a podcast?
But I think you deserve to have one now.
That's always my justification is, listen, man, when I look back at it, I've now been podcasting for 6 years.
It's a lot longer tan a lot of the big real podcasters today.
And obviously none of them were consistent or successful, which we're trying to change now. But I do think it's like, I just like to do it.
I mean, I get it.
I hear myself talk.
I've never done a podcast before since 2111. I'm honest, like I'm sitting here and I feel selfishly, I'm like, I'm important.
This shit kind of rocks.
I've got my headset on.
I'm hearing my own
I've got
voice.
my microphone, and I feel like I'm a radio host.
Yeah.
And also like, you know, you're at a period in your life where like I feel like a lot of people probably have cool, reasonably fun stuff to talk about.
That's the thing is, you know, beyond my own egotistical reasons for, you know, talking, it is a cool point in people's lives. And even if only, you know, 50 people listen to each episode, it's like some of those people, you know, like Max we had on last week was like, well, I used it because, you know, I came into this group of people and wanted to know more about them, which is like a very niche reason to do it. But I was like, well, that's cool that I never thought about.
Yeah.
And if there's somebody else that is just looking to like, you know, thinking about doing the same thing but is very daunted by it, I think this is a cool show for that.
I agree.
And I also, you know, this is the most selfish reason, is like, I do think whenever me and my friends go and hang out and have a good time, it's like a lot of people seem to think we're kind of funny, dude.
You know, so this is something I always have found that with my friends, and I guess every friend group has this, where it's like when you're together, you're laughing, like you're having a good time. But I will say, like, I looked back when I tell my college friends, they're like, who do you hang out with out there? Like, you don't know that many people. I'll tell them about, and like the way I describe you is like, yeah, he was a kid from this program we did at USC. He was like super funny. Like, and because I think for me, and I think for a lot of people in your group, and I would assume also for you as someone who aspires in the comedy space,
to be
like,
a funny person.
Being funny is like that's like step one of being friends with anyone.
Yeah.
Is like, can you get along over being, like, over having like a laugh together, having a jest. and so.
Well, that's how we came together.
Yeah.
Well, so okay. You're the second Illinois guest in a row we've had on. Shout out Illinois.
What an honor.
Lake Forest,
Illinois.
What do you want to like? Tell me
a little bit about.
Tell me about it.
About the story. So I actually was born in the city of Chicago.
Nice.
On a technicality, I was born at Northwestern Memorial.
Cool.
So kind of a weird full circle there. That I ended up going there for college. And then I lived in Highland Park, Illinois, which is actually another suburb. I lived there until I was like 4. And then made our way over to Lake Forest. And Siblings. I've got one older brother. He's 4 years older than me. It was weird. I think back, and even to this day, like, we are very similar as siblings. I don't know if you're a similar vibe with yours.
I think the older I get, the more I'm like, God damn, me and my sister are pretty similar.
Yeah, and because we are not on paper very similar people. Like, we do not have super similar interests.
Yeah.
But at like our core, I think we are pretty similar, which I guess is just like
a nice testament to good parenting too.
Yeah, certainly. But yeah, I was raised there. I went to like like preschool through 8th grade school. And so I like grew up with like the same group of people in my life all the way through 8th grade. Some of those people all the way through high school.
I had K through 12 consolidated school. That was huge for me.
And you go to college and you're like, whoa.
All my friends are gone.
I had the exact same friends for
my whole life.
Like 12 years of my life straight. And then you're like, whoa, where's everyone else? But I went to a boarding school.
Oh, yes. I didn't know
I was a day student there. Lake Forest Academy. It's a boarding school in Lake Forest. It's like 50% day students, 50% boarding. And that was awesome because I went, a good amount of kids from my middle school ended up going there, but I only stayed super close with some of them. And like those to this day are some of my very, very good friends. Shout out Charlie and Colin and Timmy and Paul and
fucking boys.
But then some of the other kids, like a lot of my closest friends in high school were boarding students.
Okay.
And
international or?
So two of my good ones were international. One, his name was Du Yun Huang. Apologies if I mess up the pronunciation. His American his name that he chose when he came to high school here was Peter.
Nice.
He was from Seoul, South Korea.
Okay.
And he's just like one of my favorite people in my memory, just because he played hockey. He's this big guy. It was just like
international school is very cool. Like we had foreign exchange students, but I always thought that's so cool to be able to interact with like international cultures.
You get such a
high
different.
School. That's awesome.
Lake Forest is a bubble in the northern suburbs of Chicago are a bubble themselves.
Yeah,
and so like getting to interact with people from like South Korea and Spain and China, like all these different places. It's such a like mind-boggling experience to be like, whoa, like you are an entire like your exposure to the world is so different to mine.
So cool.
When I was growing up, at least in like high school and college, everyone had the perception of like, if you're from New York or LA, you're like probably an asshole. You're probably like self-interested. Have you found that people here, now that we both live in Los Angeles, have you found that like the people who are actually from Los Angeles have that perception? Because I have not found that.
Well, I would say most of like the locals that I meet on my block are not from LA originally.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big transplant.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Two of us.
And like
right
this
here.
is exactly.
Yeah.
And like this is Little Russia. Like half the people on our block are Russian, and they're nice for the most part, nicer than I thought. I don't know. I was just like they might not. They've been all lovely. I do. Yeah. I don't know. It feels like a busy city, I definitely see a lot of people, but it doesn't feel as cold as I thought it would be in terms of, I don't know.
I think what I've noticed is there's a feeling here, and I love the feeling in Chicago that everyone, like, Chicago's a big city, and everyone's doing their own thing, but there's like this sense of it being almost like a small town where like you go to like your local neighborhood pub and dive bar. It's like the same cast of characters. Obviously, I've never lived in Chicago.
Yeah.
But like my friends, when I go visit them, like they have their local spot.
Right.
And it's like them and the people from around that. And in LA, it's because of the sprawl, because you could have one friend who lives an hour and a half away. Like you miss out on that. And so I think people here, there's like a little bit of a less of a sense of like that localized community. Yeah. Especially for like young professionals and like people like that who are like transplants into this place where like you there's no, you know, like obviously there's hubs like West Hollywood and Santa Monica.
And for me specifically, such a big part of it has been finding the Michigan hubs. Like that's who I moved out here
College
with.
alumni is huge.
But also, that's so big. All right, I want to jump back to Lake Forest really quick.
Yes.
Cutthroat environment. You know, when I hear Lake Forest Academy and I hear international boarding school, I tend to, in my head, I have a picture of a very competitive feel.
I would say in certain elements. So like it's very big on presentation. You know, every day I wore a tie, a button down, you know, dress pants. Dress pants.
What was that? Okay.
Like embarrassed.
You were straight. You don't want to tell me. What's that? You had pleated pants, you fucking idiot. Yeah.
But I think that, and I had a couple of friends who went, you know, to like the East Coast, typical like East Coast elite boarding schools. I think one of the biggest differences is that kind of like my school's like motto is like Midwestern heart, global spirit.
Hell yeah.
And I don't know how much they held that
embodied
up,
that,
but it was like
it's a nice message.
I mean, it's definitely an incredibly like privileged experience. You meet people from different socioeconomic standards. A lot of whom, like, if they're like local, like they're utilizing scholarships, but like because of that international population, if you're like an international student going to boarding school, most of the time you're paying full price plus more because you're paying boarding fees.
Yeah, right.
And so like I think that instead of it being like cutthroat, like they wanted you to succeed, certainly.
Yeah. Okay.
And like I don't like when I talk to kids who went to like public schools or other private schools, charter schools, magnet schools, all that type of stuff.
They just didn't give a shit about you.
Yeah, and like it sounds like maybe it was more competitive because you almost had to advocate for yourself.
You had to get above the mass of just numbers.
And you weren't going to get lost in the masses.
That's very interesting. Like that.
Yeah. Obviously, like I was raised to like really care about school.
What? Yeah, your mom's a professor.
My mom's
right?
One of her jobs. She's a professor at Kellogg, at Northwestern, and then she also has her own business. My dad's a chemical engineer. Like, they used education.
You were going to be,
up.
You were not. Those grades were going to be straight A's.
Yeah. And so, you know, I think it creates like a competitive mindset in yourself. And I kind of carry that up. I think I lost some of that edge in college when you're like, this shit's really hard sometimes.
And also good. Like, you don't want to be a fucking
you can't go into
life your whole life.
You can't. I think it's so important. And like now that I'm working, I take when I'm on the clock, I'm very locked in, very serious. And I think that's
going to benefit you your whole life. Yeah.
I think that comes from like that experience of like growing up and not necessarily like being in a collaborative environment that wanted to get you farther in life. But also, like, there was an emphasis on, like, you gotta, like, hold up your end of the bargain. Yeah. You know? But, yeah, it's weird thinking back on that. And, like, you know, I'm very mixed about my time there. I had a lot of friends who got kicked out of school because there was a zero tolerance policy. Right. And... you know, this probably isn't the place to discuss the
academic
ethics policies of boarding schools and high schools.
We was like get kicked out for like smoking weed or like hazing kids.
No, like smoking weed, getting caught with alcohol on campus. I had a good friend get kicked out for having an empty Juul pod in his dorm. Like stuff like that where you are kind of watching this happen, and you're like. And looking back at it especially, there's this feeling in my heart where I'm like, I don't think that you should do that, because
makes no sense. These are children.
Like the time in your life where you're
experimenting.
It's like the precursor to college,
yeah.
of like figuring out who you are, and not that like you shouldn't be punished for like breaking the law, but it's like you shouldn't have like your life potentially.
I'm such a huge advocate of making your mistakes while you're still a minor, like under 18. Like I think that's so huge, and that's coming from someone who did that and like probably will face some physical long-term consequences for it.
You figured it out early.
But like I always exactly, like especially when I got to college and I saw kids like just now cutting, like at 20, like as upperclassmen in college, cutting loose for like the first time in your life, and I just felt like, oh man, dude, like you're good. Like I saw them doing the things that I was like making the mistakes that I was making when I was like 16, and I was like, if you do something, like if you follow this road, dude, if you do some of this shit, it's like actually gonna fuck your whole life up.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. Anyways, you go to USC while you're still at the academy, so that tells me you have making movies on the mind.
Yes.
Were you like, when is there video production happening at the academy? Like how do you end up at USC before we talk about USC?
So the big thing was I've always loved movies and TV. I think like deep down, like I felt a calling to that to be what I wanted to do with my life. And my high school, like we didn't really offer like film classes, as I think a lot of schools do offer, maybe more so now. I think like the only film thing I did in high school, I did journalism throughout high school, and we had like one semester where you did like a video journalism class. Nice. Which like that was good and helpful, but like you're shooting with a phone. You're using iMovie to edit it.
And it's a news story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's boring.
Who gives a shit?
But so after my freshman year, I was kind of like, what am I going to do this summer? I don't really want to do a summer job. Like maybe I can do like a summer program somewhere.
Yeah.
Because my brother had done some like similar stuff like that.
Okay.
My brother at the time was at Stanford. Because he's stupid.
Yeah, he's a dumb idiot. Could never go to Northwestern.
Never get in. So he was there, and so I like did some research, and I ended up doing a summer program in, I think like it was technically like beginning filmmaking at Stanford. And it was like a 3-week course.
Nice.
It was cool. You lived in the dorms. I met a bunch of similarly minded people. Cool. And the course was cool. You like wrote scripts and you shot some short films and you got to act in them and edit them, and it was like cool and it was fun. And I was like, all right, I like this. Like, let's see where this goes. Yeah. And so that kind of mindset of like, I want to maybe pursue this, but I don't have this. Like, I don't really see where I can pursue this in my own high school. Because like before high school, I would edit like GoPro things of like me skiing and like stuff like that. Yeah. And like I liked playing around with like editing software and like I liked using a camera, like and I enjoyed those elements. So then that kind of leads us to the formational years of our friendship.
At
the University of Southern California.
Yeah, we had the great Will Bonnell on.
Absolutely.
And he's just texting me now. We're trying to get a little sketch work going.
Oh, love it.
Yeah. But I talked about that opening the opening address from like the head of the program to
that
all
courtyard.
of us.
I remember that.
Yeah. And that being, I remember being drawn to Will because Will was very loudly telling some story, but I remember sidling up to you at the start and you just making a couple offhand aside comments that really tickled me and I thought were quite funny. And I think like Will, obviously both of us love him dearly.
Yes.
And I do want to shout out, because I forgot to in the last episode, he like snuck me into his section at the Rose Bowl.
Wow.
Into the Bonnell section.
That's sick.
Which made the whole thing.
That's amazing.
So
I saw some
out.
of his film from that and it looked
unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's an incredibly talented man.
Absolutely.
the thing about Will is that he's a dynamo all the time. No off switch on him. And
he's going.
And I love hanging out with him, but I think me and you were both a little more on the laid back end in terms of it. So I think we clicked right away because of that. And you know, as cool of production opportunities as we had there, which they were amazing.
Yeah.
And really, I think put me ahead of the curve, especially when I got to Michigan. I was like, oh, well, I've already done a lot of this shit. And like, I know how the classroom setting works. But what the memories that I have are just hanging out with you and Will and Andrew and Shelby. And
that's all I really remember.
Because you had that big old dorm room, dude.
Oh, so I remember moving in day one, and I'm putting my stuff off, and I'm dropping it off, and I remember I have to go. I think I run to go to the campus store to go buy a notebook or something.
Yeah.
And I meet my roommate. I don't even remember his name. It's like a blur in my memory. And I left, and he was there, and I came back 2 hours later, and he was gone, and all of his stuff was gone. And then,
damn, bro just had a tough just a homesick.
The RAs and I guess it wasn't day one, but it was early, and so the RAs showed up one night. I think it was maybe night 2 or 3.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Hey, have you seen so and so?" I was like, "It's a good question. I actually have not."
It wasn't my turn to watch him, guys.
I didn't know I was supposed to be. He didn't tell me I was supposed to be keeping an eye on him.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, weird. He must have left. And I was like, wow, you guys are not as responsible.
Are you guys going to get in trouble?
You lost one.
Yeah.
You lost one. But then I ended up obviously having that really big old suite.
We all pretty
amazing.
Quickly co-opted your room as the hangout room because you had such a big
good
space
spot
for us to hang out in there.
Nice dorms too.
Damn, I was gonna spend the next 25 minutes on that. No,
I didn't want to kill the kill the energy. I felt it. I felt it building.
You felt where that was going.
I'll need to have my lawyers present.
No, that's fine. I mean, what else about? I mean, USC.
I will say to throw us back on course here. I remember being so jealous of what you were doing in your actual classes there because you were doing writing.
Yes, I was taking a sitcom writing class,
and I was like, "Fuck,
that was awesome,
way cooler."
Yeah,
because I was doing another. I think it was intro to filmmaking. So I'd done beginning at Stanford.
Right.
Now
you're
my way
on
to intro.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was actually a really good summer for me, career-wise, because I was like, I don't like being behind the camera.
Yeah.
I figured that out about myself. I saw these other kids doing it. They were way better at it.
That was huge for me, dude. Seeing the way Adrian could just make the camera do whatever he wanted, and it looked so sick.
I remember I would talk to someone.
I don't have it.
Try and figure out how to even just shoot photos as well as some of these kids were. And it just didn't click for me.
I don't have the eye. Yeah.
No. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I want to be in this field, but this is
something else.
But I remember you were doing Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah. We were writing spec scripts. That was very fun.
And I just remember that kind of being my first introduction to whoa, this is what going to college for this would be like.
Yeah.
And that's when USC became the dream goal.
That's when we were all like, well, we're all gonna go to
See
USC.
you guys in a year, I guess.
USC, we'll all be here together having fun. And then, did you apply? You got waitlisted, didn't you?
I applied and I got in as a spring admit.
That's what it was.
Which in hindsight was, I'm really glad. I'm extra glad I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Because I would have went to, I think they did it at the American University in Paris. You go there for your first semester.
Whoa.
You go abroad for your first semester of college. So I was like, well, why would I want to do that? I'm not going to meet anyone.
Have any friends.
But if I had done that our freshman year, I would have been in Paris. I would have come home, and then COVID would have hit.
You would have had no friends.
And I would have gone through 2 years of college without knowing a single person.
Yeah, that would have fucking sucked. Damn, man, everything works out for a reason, huh?
It really does. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, we're at an hour 17.
Look at that.
We've recorded a podcast. Isn't it nice?
That moves fast.
We got in a nice little groove there.
You feel it's weird. I'm gonna be honest, I was like nervous.
You're like,
today.
how the
I was like
fuck
sitting
are
on
we
my
gonna
couch,
fill
and
up an hour?
I was like, I showered and I was in the shower, and I'd like the shower for me. I don't know if it is for you. It's like I like talk to myself a lot, where I'm like thinking out loud and just like trying to figure out stuff. And I was like fake interviewing myself.
Yeah.
But I guess like that's the difference between a podcast and an interview is it's not like, so tell me about a time that you so and so.
Yes. Yeah.
Which
that's stressful. You worked well as a team.
Name one time you collaborated with someone who differed from your style. Yeah.
That'd be sick if I did an episode like that.
Like it's just a job interview.
Yeah.
But it's nice being able to like sit and I think when we hang out we talk a decent amount.
Yeah.
And it feels very similar, but like I was worried that being too like thoughtful of like what I'm saying. And I'm just gonna I would like
just kill things. Just kill the
like,
pod.
Fuck, I can't fucking say that.
Well, what happens? It's interesting you say this because I've noticed a trend, which is like a lot of people when they come to do the show like are pretty nervous.
Yeah.
Which it's only happened for me once when I had a guest that I didn't know.
Really?
A comedian.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing clips from
Lewis Michael. One of my favorite episodes I've done. Fucking hilarious, awesome guy. But I was so nervous because I didn't know what to do. And every other guest when I bring a guest on the show, it's because like I have an angle that I know I can work with them for at least an hour. But a lot of people don't don't know, so they're nervous. And then as soon as they start recording, they're like, "Oh, I'm just fucking hanging out." Yeah. And then after the show, people usually have 2 or 3 things that they want
to
get axed out, which I'm always happy to do.
Yeah.
Obviously. But yeah, man.
It's been an honor.
It's nice, right? I'm sure if you don't get too busy at work, I'm sure they're gonna figure out how hot of a commodity you are pretty soon, and you'll be working.
I'm gonna be kicking, but it'll be good.
I bet we'll get you back on the show at some point.
Anytime. Anytime.
We got 2 minutes left in this Packers-Cowboys game. The Packers they ran away with it.
And then I get to watch you just sweat.
You literally are you are going to have a front row seat to me in emotional torture chamber. But it'll be fun. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Tyler, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm going to put this on, and I'm going to play us out.